Hello everyone, welcome back. Now this is session 2 of Making Sense of Discipline, or Why Discipline. And today we're specifically going to talk about temperament. Now, what is temperament? You'll see that the tempering effect is one of the most fascinating brain developments that happens at 5 to 7 year olds, and I'll explain everything about it. But before we go into the big details, the juicy stuff, I'd like to just remind you what the word means. Let's start with the meaning of the word temperament. It means to mix feelings, to consider this and that. On the other hand, for example, if we go back to ancient Greece, a senator had to be tempered because, and that's where the word would originate from, its meaning that we'd like to use today. To be tempered is to be able, as a senator, for example, to consider this and that. Not like some of our current neighbors who have elected someone that is not tempered at all. We'd like to, as teachers, to hope that we are tempered, and we expect it of our children. To consider this and that. So before we go into the temperament, let's go back to our roundabout, and I'll show you exactly where it'll fit in. So, little recap. Our frustration roundabout. It happens to all of us on a daily basis. First of all, what happens? We enter the frustration mode. Our feeling of frustration has to find an output. It's an energy coming from it within. We've got to let it go. So we'll try to change the output. Mommy, I want a cookie. Mommy says no. It can't. It's not going to change. Our next possibility is the adaptation. We've got our little tears, inside or outside. We adapt to it. The energy has left us, and then the sun comes back. But if the door is closed, there's no safe place to let our tears. We don't feel that we're able to let go for so many different reasons. We go to attack. The attacking mode, which remember is either verbal, physical, or even to ourselves. Now, something very interesting happens in our brain. And this is where I'd like to talk about the prefrontal cortex, because you will see that something happens that between 5 and 7 that blocks this roundabout section. So let us turn the board around, shall we? There we go, everyone can see. So our prefrontal cortex is the following, a beautiful picture of the brain. You'll see why I'm talking about this. It'll make sense in just a minute. So the prefrontal cortex is this part of the brain, and let's consider it as a big mixing bowl. In this mixing bowl, we have all our feelings that go in, are mixed, and are all considered. None of them come out. They're all in. It's a big bowl. They come in and they stay in. We would need a good developed prefrontal cortex is the ability to mix feelings all together. You'll see why this is so important in just a minute. Now, this only happens at 5 to 7 year olds, not at 4-year-old. A 4-year-old is only able to see one feeling at a time. He goes to being very joyful, to very mad, to very frustrated, to then sad, to then scared, to happy again. It just goes one to the other. 5 to 7 is able to mix those at some point when his prefrontal cortex develops. Now, as I said, it's the ability to add feelings, not take away. I'll show you a very good example of a little boy called Amir, which was an example given by Dr. Neufeld in our last training. And it gives a good example why it's so important for children to be able to mix feelings, and what happens when a 4-year-old doesn't. So Amir's family goes to visit Dr. Neufeld and tells them that they're very worried because they're very peaceful people. There's no conflict in the house between parents per se and from the children, no violence. They're very careful of what they watch on TV, what they read. Very worried parents because their older daughter, who is, let's say, 7 or 8, is very, very sweet and very generous to her brother, but the 4-year-old kicks, hits, and is sometimes aggressive towards his sister, and they wonder where it comes from. Does he have a problem? What can we do? What have we done? So Dr. Neufeld sits down with the young boy, and mind you, the parents are on the other side of I'll call it a police window, where they can see their child, but the child does not see them. So they talk about different things, and then at some point, Dr. Neufeld says, "So Amir, I hear you have sometimes kicks and hits for your sister. They're coming from within. You have that?" And then he says, "Oh, my sister can be so frustrating." Oh, Dr. Neufeld says, "I had sisters too. I know what it can be like. You just feel like you gotta hit them." So he says, yes, I do. They keep on talking about different things, their favorite color, what you like to do outside, blah, blah. Then he asks Amir another question. "So Amir, tell me, do you also have hugs and kisses for your sister?" And Amir's eyes start to sparkle. He does. He says, "Oh, my sister, she's so wonderful. I love spending time with her. We go outside, we play, she takes care of me. When I'm sick, she gives me candies," and on and on. His sister is the most wonderful person in the world. So to our 4-year-old Amir, he's not able to mix his feelings. His prefrontal cortex hasn't developed. He either frustrated with his sister, or he's happy to be with her, or he wants to be. It's not mixing. He can't consider both at the same time. It's one, and then it's the other. Not on the other hand, I love my sister. I'm frustrated with my sister, but on the other hand, I love spending time with her. No, that's not happening yet. So what do mixed feelings look like? Let's go. If you are impulsive, but you're able to mix your care about the impact that your feelings will have, then you have self-control. For example, I want to kick that little boy who stole my toy, but he's 3 times my size, and I think he'll be better at beating me up, so maybe I'll control myself, for example. Or I'm very frustrated, but I have caring feelings for that person. I'm patient as a parent or a teacher. I'm very frustrated with that child. I feel like really raising my voice, but I care for them, so I will be patient, and I will rephrase my demand. Or the fear of the dragon and the desire to find a treasure, for example. I'm very, very afraid of that dragon, but I really want the treasure, so it takes courage. Like so many stories of knights in shining armor, it all goes around. So even ancient mythology and our history, our stories, they understood the importance of mixing feelings. Our care for self, I really wanted to play snakes and ladders and care for others, but Tommy likes to do skip rope, and I want to play with him too. So maybe I'll be considerate, and I'll let him play his game, and then we'll play mine. And to get even, if you're really frustrated, my sister, she broke my toy, but I have caring feelings for her. I know it was a mistake, so I will forgive her. So the prefrontal cortex is what makes us mix those feelings together. So it's quite important. Remember, no feelings, leave the bowl. I'll go back to our roundabout just to wrap this up a little bit. So there we go once again. I hope everyone can see. So again, the tempering effect is when you've gone through your roundabout and you get to the attack, you are mixing your prefrontal cortex, who is developed between 5 and 7, will close this door, and your attacking impulses will be tempered. You are now able, more or less, to mix your frustration and your caring for others, your fear and your desire to grow. So it's very, very fascinating. This is something we need to understand, that to help find mixed feelings will help children go through their frustration without attacking. There's the adaptation, and there's also the tempering feeling. So why is it so important to consider the mixing of feelings? I'll give you an example just to wrap this up. For example, in discipline. Oops, sorry guys. When a child is misbehaving, and as I said before, in a social setting, in a school setting, there needs to be boundaries and there needs to be rules. That is, we should never put that to take that away. But the way that we discipline or that we show the social order and that we are the alpha to children is quite important, because if they misbehave and we take away what they care for, or in other words, their caring feelings, what is left? If you don't listen, you will not get to go to the library. When you hit, you lose your playtime. If you don't share, you also lose your playtime, or I don't know, or you take away something they care for. Look what happens when you take away what kids care for. They're impulsive. You take away the care. You take away the care. No more care. What's left? Impulsivity, no self-control, frustration. They can't find patience because you need both to be patient. The fear, no courage because the desire is gone. Only the care for self and only the desire to get even. So we do need social justice, but if we could find ways around the taking away of what they care for, it's essential, because there's no way to teach. We can't get stuff like this through their thick heads. Children are just not made like that. And of course it works sur le coup, as when you do it, it does seem to work. But on the long run, kids lose their caring feelings, and then you'll have, when they're in the older grades, stuff like, well, I really don't care, and they really do not care because there's nothing to care for. So it's just to show the impact of what happens when we take away their caring feelings. So remember, the tempering effect is to understand, to give validity to these feelings. They're there. We can't take, there's no way we can take these away, but we can play on this. So please remember, we need to be patient and to trust that the prefrontal cortex will do its job between 5 and 7. And in the meantime, we accompany them, we hold their hand, and we let them have what they care for. And we find other ways of showing them that we care, but we have to put a stop at certain things. So this is my last bit on the tempering effect, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Trust your prefrontal cortex and the blueprint. It's there, it'll work, and you guys are great. So, see you next time. Ciao.